All right, to solve problem number one, I'm going to look for the least common multiple by making a list of multiples of 14 and 21, because if we don't, we're going to have some really big numbers to deal with, and we will have to reduce a lot. So we can see that 42 is in both lists, and since they're the only numbers that are in both lists so far, therefore automatically they're the smallest, and that's the least common multiple. We'll go with that. So I'm going to set up my denominators, and we're subtracting these fractions. Now I want to make the denominators of my original fractions into a 42. So for the first fraction, I'm going to multiply 5 over 14 times 3, and the numerator times 3 and denominator times 3. We're going to get 42 in the denominator, and the numerator 5 times 3 is 15. For the second fraction, I'm going to multiply times 2, because 21 times 2 is 42. And 2 times 2 is 4. And now we're going to subtract. 15 over 42 minus 4 over 42 is 11 over 42. 11 does not divide into 42, so we can't reduce that way. And 11 is prime, so it can't be broken down any further. And this is our fraction in simplest form. For problem 2, we want to compare these fractions, and none of them have a common denominator. So we're going to write out the list of their multiples to see if we can determine the least common multiple, and then find a common denominator that way. From there, it'll be really, really easy to compare the fractions to see if 2/3 really is between 1/2 and 3/4. As you can see, the number 12 is in each list, and it's the common factor among all the denominators. Common multiple among all the denominators. So we want to make all of the denominators equal to 12. We're going to do that by using multiplication. All right, 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. So now the original fractions all have common denominators, but they're in equivalent form. Next, we're going to compare them in order. Since all of them have the same denominator, we can set up the denominators first. Okay, now 6 is the least of these, 9 is the greatest of these, and 8 goes in the middle. But we need to go back to our original fraction so we can see, is 2/3 really between the other two? Let's write them in. Okay, guys, this question is telling us to compare and justify our claim. That means we're going to have to write a sentence with words and really clearly explain it. As you can see, though, we put them in order from least to greatest, and 2/3 really is in between 1/2 and 3/4. It's in the middle. Not exactly in the middle, but it's between them. Okay, so make sure that you have your sentence in there. Last but not least, for number 3, we're going to convert 0.25% into a pure decimal by moving it 2 spaces to the left. So that would actually be 1 space, 2 space. So you'd have 0.0025. These are zeros. And you're going to multiply that times 900 to get a result of 2.25. If you think about it, 0.25% is only a fraction of 1%. It's like you take 1% and cut it into 4 because it's 1/4. 0.25 is 1/4. So 2.25 is just a tiny fraction or percent of 900.